You're listening to The Gary Harris Show on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa.
Ball over is not really my thing.
In college football, Texas is the new number one team in the nation, jumping Georgia. The SEC has 9 teams in the top 25.
The Gary Harris Show. UCM host Tider Insider TV. Crimson Tide Kickoff. Play-by-play for Alabama sports and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
And good morning, everybody. Welcome into the Gary Harris Show for this Monday, September 16, 2024. Alabama football bye week number 1. And I think it's coming at a great time. More on that in a moment. But the Crimson Tide will not play this Saturday, and they will enjoy a weekend off before second-ranked Georgia comes to town next weekend. And I say second-ranked Georgia because the Bulldogs fell a spot from number 1 to number 2 in the AP poll after their narrow, and I mean narrowest of wins at Kentucky, 13-12, a game, quite frankly, they were very fortunate to win. There were a few of those over the weekend. As I like to say, they always say good teams find a way to win. Well, sometimes bad teams find a way to lose, and we saw a little bit of that. I'm not saying that Kentucky's a bad team, but they did get blown out the week before by South Carolina, and South Carolina found a way to win. Found a way to lose, I should say, at home against LSU in a game they should have won. There were a few of those games over the weekend. Interesting weekend, but welcome into the program. I'm Gary Harris. My main man, Chase Brumfeld, is manning the controls, taking your phone calls on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline at 205-342-9904. We got a good show on tap for you today. I'll run it down here in just a moment. First, though, I need to tell you, as always, this hour of the Gary Harris Show being brought to you by Alabama Credit Union. Member-owned and not-for-profit. It really is just a better way of banking. Listen to that again. Member-owned and not-for-profit. It means that you're a member. You're not just a customer. And the credit union is taking its profits and returning them to you, the member, in the form of lower interest rates on loans and higher dividends. That's something we can all get excited about. Find out more at alabamacu.com. That's alabamacu.com. Alabama Credit Union. Loans for real life. Some rules and restrictions do apply. See if you're eligible for membership to join today and feel good about your money. And put a little extra change in your pocket. All right, I see we have a phone call. We're going to get to that in just a little bit. Corey, you hold tight over there in Trustful. We'll get to you. First, though, Alabama 42, Wisconsin 10. And really, I think a very pleasing performance for Alabama football, for Alabama fans, to go on the road to Camp Randall. And as I talk about this game, we're going to talk much more about it in just a moment. I'll tell you when I give you the guest list, we'll have a guest who was there and covered the game on Saturday. But I just think it was needed after the South Florida game, which was Alabama was on the struggle bus for more than 3 quarters in that one, to go to Camp Randall and to take care of business, lead 21-3 at half, and win it 42-10, made a statement that Alabama is still one of the premier teams in the country. Of course, we know that already, but I think after the South Florida game, people were hoping that wouldn't be the case. I think every time Alabama struggles, there are a lot of people out there, because Alabama, the brand, has become so huge, always has been, but really in the last 15 years has become the dominant name in college football. As I've said many times, it's like the Yankees, it's like the Lakers, it's like the Cowboys. There's a lot of people that want to see Alabama fail, and there's a lot of people that want to see Alabama succeed. I know that as well. But there's a lot of people that want to see Alabama fail, and when there is an opportunity for that failure, they get a little bit giddy. And I think a lot of people were hoping after the struggle against South Florida that Alabama would go to Wisconsin and struggle, and then they could say, see, Alabama's not the same old Alabama, and Georgia's going to come in there and curb stomp them. Now, I think, it was Georgia that, very fortunate to win that game at Kentucky. Very fortunate. So I think the roles are reversed a little bit. I think there's a lot of people now who realize that Georgia's not going to just roll into Bryant-Denny, not that they ever were, but they're not just going to roll into Bryant-Denny and put a whipping on Alabama. This is going to be a heck of a game. What will happen in 12 days, no one knows. That's why we'll play the game. But I think there's going to be a lot of hype. Now, it is a little bit disappointing, I think, from an Alabama perspective that Georgia isn't number one, that they slipped to number 2 in the AP poll. But it's still going to be number 4 against number 2, it looks like, or top 5 matchup, regardless. So that's something to be excited about. All right, here's the lineup for today. Rodney Hooper is out today. He has speaking engagement. So Joe Gaither from Bama Central is going to step in. He covered the game up in Madison at Camp Randall Stadium on Saturday for Bama Central. Of course, he formerly is the brand manager here at Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM WTBC. So we're looking forward to visiting with Joe, catching up with him, and also getting his firsthand account of what happened on Saturday up there in Madison, Wisconsin. Then at 10:30, Casey Smith on golf should be a great segment today because we've got so much to cover. Alabama men's golf winning the Folds of Honor last week up on the shores of Lake Michigan. A huge tournament for Alabama men's golf. And the Solheim Cup had great drama, which is the Women's Ryder Cup, basically. U.S. versus Europe. The U.S. won, but it was not easy. Came down to the wire. And then yesterday, Pat Desire, former Northridge, Tuscaloosa native, Northridge High School graduate. He also played golf at TA and Central before finishing up at Northridge, then at Auburn University. He won for the first time in 6 years on the PGA Tour. It was his 3rd career win, just a huge win for him. Huge win. And Patton's dad, Maxie, played baseball at Alabama. Maxie Kazire, Tuscaloosa family. And great win for him. So a lot to discuss with Casey Smith coming up at 10:30 this morning. And also, we are going to get to Kalen DeBoer, the Alabama head football coach, who met with the media on Saturday following the win at Wisconsin. We're going to have that audio for you coming up this morning as well. And speaking of Coach DeBoer, this is something else that's different from Coach Saban. Coach Saban, during a bye week, would not have a press conference. He would just, of course, Alabama would continue to prepare, but the Monday during a bye week, Alabama football would not hold a press conference. Coach DeBoer will. Coach DeBoer will have his standard Monday press conference at noon, preceded by the coordinators' press conferences at 11:30 with Nick Sheridan and Kane Womack. So a regular press conference scheduled today for Alabama football, even though the Crimson Tide does not play this week. So we'll make a note of that. So much to cover this morning here on the program. We're excited that you're with us. And again, phone lines are open on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline at 205-342-9904. And we'd love to hear from you. And we're going to start getting to some of those phone calls in the next segment. Real quick note, everybody's asking about my point spread predictions. Man, I tell you what, I've had 2 weeks in a row where I struggle, but I also had 2 weeks in a row where, last week Arkansas, and this week it was Tulane. At Tulane plus 14.5 against Oklahoma, and they lost by 15 points. The dreaded half point. That's why that half point is so huge. So I did not have a good week again. After that 8-1 start, I went 3-6-1 last week and 5-8 this week. I told you on Friday from Ministry Hours Pub, when I picked Florida, I regretted it even when I picked it, which is stupid that I picked it. But I took Florida plus the 3 at home, and they got rolled again by A&M. And now the question is whether Billy Napier is even going to make it through the season. Seriously, a lot of stuff coming out of Gainesville that he's going to be fired maybe this week. So we will see. But did not have a good week. Took Mississippi State at home against Toledo. They got bombed. Got destroyed. Took Vandy -9 against Georgia State at Turner Field. They should have won the game. They fought back, but they didn't come close to covering, but they didn't win either. As Vandy gonna Vandy. Off to a chance to get to a 3-0 start, and they lose to Georgia State. Sunbelt. How about that? And Mississippi State gets pummeled by Toledo from the MAC. So anyway, 12 minutes after the hour, 9 o'clock, we're going to get to our first break. Corey in Trussville is going to lead us off on the phone lines in the next segment. Joe Gaither from Bama Central at 9:30. Casey Smith on golf at 10:30. Kalen DeVore post-game press conference from Madison, Wisconsin this morning as well. Your phone calls and a whole lot more. The Gary Harris Show with Gary Harris and Chase Brumfeld will continue when we come back right after this first timeout. This hour being brought to you by Alabama Credit Union. Corey from Trussville is going to lead us off next.
Here's what's trending on the Tuscaloosa thread.
Good Monday morning. Picket lines at AT&T facilities in Tuscaloosa will join others across the Southeast in coming down today after AT&T and the Communication Workers of America reached a tentative contract agreement. No contract specifics have been released publicly. That contract still needs to be ratified by CWA members. Click TuscaloosaThread.com for more local news, sports, and weather coverage all throughout the day. It's absolutely free. Don Hartley, Town Square Media, Tuscaloosa.
As much as Innisfree has evolved, it will always be that place to escape and have a good time. Whether it's for a game day weekend, to reminisce on college days, or to create new memories, if you're looking for a good time, there's only one thing to do. Head to the Free at 1925 University Boulevard. And don't forget about the Lucky Lunch Meat and 3 special. Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. until 2 p.m. Get a meat and 3 vegetables for just $8.49. Or for a lighter appetite, try the Lucky Lunch soup, salad, or sandwich combo. I'll see you at the Free.
If you haven't already, you've got to try Tuscaloosa's unique breakfast, brunch, and lunch concept. Brick and Spoon, downtown Tuscaloosa, Timerson Square. It's fresh food with a Cajun flair featuring a full bar with build-your-own Bloody Marys and mimosas. Open daily, 7 a.m. until 2 p.m. Available for after-hours events, rehearsal dinners, receptions, and birthdays. They offer brunch and lunch catering. Call Brick and Spoon at 205-345-5551 for more information.
Tuscaloosa's Old Colony Golf Course is an 18-hole championship layout designed by 1976 U.S. Open champion Jerry Pate. Director of Golf John Gray and fitting specialist Bob Montgomery are PGA certified. Mike Shivitz is the head professional and director of the Tuscaloosa Junior Golf Program. Call today to secure a tee time.
Days a week. Located across from Sokol Park, the venue houses Finney's Pub, the second location of Rammer Jammers, and Liza's Sweet Shop. Visit VenueTuscaloosa.com to learn more.
Life doesn't wait for when your finances are in perfect order. It just happens. But no matter what surprises come your way, Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgages, and auto loans. They offer an easy application process and fast decisions so you can stay focused on feeling good about whatever life brings your way. Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgages, and auto loans. Alabama Credit Union, loans for real life. Visit alabamacu.com to learn more. Some rules and restrictions apply. See if you're eligible for membership, then join today and feel good about your money.
Since 2011, Billy's Sports Grill, located on Main Avenue in historic downtown Northport, has been serving their legendary signature chicken sandwich, award-winning wings, and handcrafted cocktails. Billy's is also the spot to watch all your favorite sporting events with big screen, high-definition televisions, both dining rooms, at the bar, and outside on the beautiful patio. Come by and say hello to Kim and Lisa, the Billy's Management Dream Team. Billy's, good food, good friends, and good time.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
We'll maintain the chance of a few scattered showers today, otherwise partially sunny, the high 81. Clear tonight, the low 63. Tomorrow and Wednesday, the sky partly to mostly sunny both days, highs between 84 and 87. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
You're listening to The Gary Harris Show. For Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
(9:16). Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show. And I was at the YMCA yesterday afternoon, and boy, enjoyed a good workout. And man, the place was jumping with folks in there getting their workout on and in, and I just love the Y, and would love for you to join me there at the YMCA of Tuscaloosa, 2300 13th Street downtown. Beautiful facility, great staff, personal training, 10% off all personal training until the end of the month. All their packages 10% off. Also, no joining fee at the Y until the end of the month. So all you have to do is just go down there and sign up, start paying your dues, and become a member of the YMCA. But YMCA of Tuscaloosa, the Y is ready when you're ready for the Y. All right, let's jump out on the Pinnacle Park and North River hotline and get the show started off with our first caller, our good friend Corey from Trussville, ready to talk some ball. Good morning, Corey.
Good morning, Gary. How are you this morning?
Doing well.
Well, I enjoyed the game Saturday. They did pretty much what they wanted to do and what I thought they would do. Still a little concerned about the run defense because, Georgia's going to take advantage of that. And kind of the same thing with the pass defense because they had some open plays that, Carson Beck's going to hit if that opportunity comes. But I thought both lines of scrimmage were very dominant. I thought Milroe took care of the ball well. And what I liked, and this is something you rarely ever saw Saban do, was if there was little time on the clock at the end of the second half, he would just knee the ball and go to halftime. Kalen DeBoer went for the throat and pretty much ended the game there. And then when Alabama scored at the beginning of the second half, the game was over. And so that's what I like. Kalen DeBoer wasn't screwing around. He said, we're going to end this game here. And he was very aggressive. And that was the bowl game. And I really liked the aggressive approach.
I agree with you, Corey. I think that, you make a great point on I think, there's always a few plays that swing a game. This was still a very competitive game. And, Wisconsin, as you said, missed a couple chances. Of course, Van Dyke went out, their quarterback. We'll talk more about that with Joe Gaither. But they had a receiver open in the corner of the end zone, and it was overthrown, which would have made it 14-10. And I think they wound up missing a field goal. And then Alabama, instead of being 14-10, it's 14-3, and they go down and score, like you said. And so, instead of what possibly could have been a 4-point game, it's a 21-3 game at half. And then, as you said correctly, they come out and score in the second half, and it's ball game over. And you're right, the aggressiveness on offense, still some things to clean up. And as you pointed out, you're going to start facing quarterbacks that aren't going to miss some of those throws. And early in the game, for the second straight week, Wisconsin had some guys that were open, and the backup quarterback missed them. So, but all in all, just a tremendous win, and I'm encouraged by what I saw. And I think the bye week's coming at a perfect time. Normally, you'd say just 3 weeks in, you already have a bye, but in this case, I think it's the perfect timing to kind of hit the reset button now and have a good week of work, and then get into game mode next week for Georgia. So, Corey, what do you think about Georgia? They very fortunate to win that game at Kentucky. I thought they got outplayed, to be honest with you.
You're not going to see the same performance you saw Saturday walking in Bryant-Denny Stadium and you're not going to see the same performance you saw from Alabama against South Florida against Georgia. These are two really good teams going to put their best on the line, and Georgia's too good to not replicate that performance against Kentucky. And it's weird that Georgia always has had trouble going to Kentucky and winning, and they always have that one clunker game where they just play with their food and just come out with a win. But I just think, and I hate to say this, I think that is the worst thing that could happen to Bama, was Georgia just played a bad game, because now it gets Georgia's attention, and now Kirby Smart has something to get his players' attention with, and now Georgia might come out fired up and all that stuff. But that's something for Georgia to deal with. Now Alabama has to come out and play their game. I mean, if they play their game, they have a real chance to win this game. I mean, Georgia will probably be favored, but I see these two teams as evenly matched. I mean, everybody thinks that Georgia's better because Nick Saban's not there, but Kalen DeBoer has put his stamp on this program already, and I think Alabama has a good chance to win this game. I mean, they're at home, and I just think that this is a good matchup for Alabama. They're not that too far apart. I mean, it's not like these two teams one team doesn't recruit real good and one team doesn't. One team recruits real good and one team does. I mean, they both recruit the same. I mean, but everybody just thinks that because Nick Saban's there that Georgia's going to come in there and wipe Alabama off the map. But no, Alabama is still Alabama, and I think Alabama has a real good chance to win this game.
Well, I do too. And back in the preseason, I picked them to win the game. So, and I understand what you're saying. I think probably it will, kind of curb some enthusiasm for Georgia. If Georgia goes up there and blows Kentucky out the way most people thought that they would, then I think the popular conversation would be they're gonna blow into Tuscaloosa and handle Alabama, and maybe that would have meant that I think it's going to add some. I don't know how to say this. I think what you said is probably true, and that maybe it got Georgia's attention, but they were going to be ready for this game anyway. So I will, I'll be anxious to see next week what the hype is like. I think there'll be more people that, give Alabama a chance to win the game maybe than would have. But Georgia was going to be ready for this one anyway. So what happened up there in Lexington, regardless, we'll see.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's just what I saw Saturday against Georgia is you can push them around on the line of scrimmage. I mean, normally teams don't do that, but I saw some holes open up on the line of scrimmage, and I saw you can get pressure on Carson Beck. And Kentucky doesn't have the 4 and 5 star players, and if Kentucky could do that, I know Alabama can do that.
Yeah. So, anyway, it's going to be interesting, Corey. There's no doubt about it. So, we will. We're going to find out, man. It's going to be an interesting week this week, in that we kind of have a little bit of a break, and then next week it'll be full of hype. So, it's going to be fun, buddy. I can tell you that.
What about your thoughts on the NFL set yesterday?
My thoughts on the NFL yesterday, it was crazy. What a crazy Sunday. There were so many games, so much excitement, and so many games that go down to the wire. I just was amazed at all the games the NFL's kind of designed like that. They want parity, and games are almost really never over until the end. And, we had just game after game after game that came down to the final possession. Ravens blew a lead and got beat at home. And we will, we'll see what happens with them, but they're 0-2. The Raiders got a big win. Of course, the Chiefs pull went out against the Bengals in a game that they got outplayed in. The Bengals should have won that game, but 4th and 16, Patrick Mahomes is probably the only quarterback in the NFL that in 4th and 16, you feel like that they're going to make a play. And in this case, it was pass interference. Most anybody else in the league, 4th and 16, you feel like you got the game won. 4th and 16, you expect the Chiefs to make it, and they did. And they didn't complete the pass, but they only rushed 3. The Bengals did, and Mahomes bought time, and he always gives this guy a chance. And he threw the ball down the field, and it was pass interference. The guy got there early for the Bengals, and then they wound up kicking the field goal and winning the game on the last play of the game. Just crazy. It's so hard to beat the Chiefs. But I love the NFL. I love the excitement. It is sloppy. I think the fact that so many people I'm losing my train of thought here. I got multitasking here, Corey, but I love the fact that these games are just down to the wire. It's just crazy in the NFL.
Yeah, I agree. It's just what I'm keeping track of this year is 2 things. My team with T.J. Watt trying to get 100 career sacks is only 2.5 off, and with Derrick Henry needing like a little over 400 yards to get 10,000 rushing yards and 8 more touchdowns to get 100 career touchdowns. That's what I'm keeping track of this year.
Yeah, man. Yeah, a lot to keep track of. So, a great call as always, Corey. Appreciate you, man.
Good to talk to you, Gary. Roll Tide.
Good to talk to you. And it's 9:27 here on the Gary Harris Show. We are going to take a timeout, and when we come back, Joe Gaither from Bama Central is going to join us. He was in Madison he's got a great article up on Bama Central. In fact, a very in-depth piece that he wrote, 24 Things I Noticed in Alabama.
Travel Center, North River Outdoors, Banks & Company Outdoor, Urbans, and Black Warrior Marine. Complete rules are online at TuscaloosaThread.com.
Los Tarascos has been serving Mexican favorites like burritos, fajitas, and quesadillas since 1999. Their new location is at 4100 Owen Parkway in Northport. And, of course, you can find Los Tarascos in Tuscaloosa at 110 Skyland Boulevard. The bar areas feature big screen television so you can enjoy your favorite sporting events. Los Tarascos features daily happy hour.
.com or Town Square Media Tuscaloosa radio websites. Fill out the Advertise Here form. Put the power of Town Square Media to work for your business.
Your home for Alabama Crimson Tide football. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, 9:30. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show here on Tide 100.9 FM at 12:30 a.m. WTBC, and we're joined by Joe Gaither from Bama Central. He was at Camp Randall on Saturday. Has a great piece out at the Bama Central site, which is the SI site for Alabama. 24 Things I Noticed in Alabama's 42-10 victory over Wisconsin. It is a very in-depth piece, and I would encourage you to read it. But we'll talk about Joe's observations right here on my show as well. Good morning, Joe. How are you doing, buddy?
Gary, thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely, man. And before we get into the game itself, which was positive for Alabama, just your Camp Randall experience. I wasn't there, but I've talked to a number of people who were, and they said it was awesome from the way that the Wisconsin fans treated them, to the atmosphere, to the city, the campus, just everything was first class. What about Joe Gaither's game day experience working for Bama Central?
Oh, man, Gary, I absolutely echo that. We got there about midday on Friday, and I was able to walk around the campus, and nobody knew I was a reporter, so I did have an Alabama basketball shirt on and got so many Roll Tides and welcome to Madison. We hope you have a good weekend, that sort of thing from the locals. So it was really cool, and the campus was beautiful up there. Saturday was great. I mean, Saturday was just like a whole big party. Not as turned up early in the morning as I thought it might be, but still a great atmosphere outside the stadium. I was able to see Greg Byrne meet and greeting a lot of Alabama fans out there. It's great of him to treat the Alabama fans to his presence that made the trips. And then inside the stadium was just a consummate party. I mean, Wisconsin, they didn't play very well on the field, obviously, but the fans were just into it the entire game until at least after jump around, and then they cleared out, and it became kind of a Alabama quasi-home game with the remaining visiting fans. It was a great, great time.
As for the game, as far as the game goes, obviously for Wisconsin to lose Tyler Van Dyke, their quarterback, early in that game impacted them. There's no doubt about it. Although the backup was in a competition to win that job into fall camp, so he's a guy that they had some confidence in. I don't think it would have made a difference in Alabama winning the game. I think Alabama would have won the game regardless, but maybe it would have been a more competitive game. What do you think? How much did losing Van Dyke impact the Wisconsin offense, in your opinion?
Well, I certainly don't think that Alabama would have been in danger to lose. But you look into the first several plays that Van Dyke was able to play and the multiple ways that they kind of got after Alabama on that opening drive, and then it kind of all went to hell when he gets hurt. And then you go forward into the second half drive where it's still at 17 plays and they convert 2 fourth downs. And while the game was pretty much out of reach already at that point, I think Wisconsin had several ways that they wanted to get after Alabama. I think they saw what South Florida was able to do with the quarterback run, and I think that they wanted to be patient by taking 3, 4, 5, 7 yards, frustrating the Alabama defense. Do I think it would have made a difference as far as the outcome? No, but the gambling line may have gone a different way.
Yeah, you never know, do you? So, you've got a great article, like I said, at Bama Central, 24 Things I Noticed in Alabama's 42-10 victory over Wisconsin. You went in depth, and you found some flaws. And obviously no game is perfect, and Alabama's got some things to work on. But I found it interesting that you talk about good Jalen Milroe and bad Jalen Milroe. And you said, there were instances in this game where you saw both. Expand on what you wrote about there.
I mean, the box score, Gary, looks beautiful. 12 of 17, 196, 3 touchdowns through the air, and then obviously what he can do on the ground. The box score looks great. It can't get any better. What I think you saw with Jalen in growth was pre-snap recognition. And I think that you've seen that a little bit this year and, recognizing what the defense is giving him before the snap and getting to his answers. The first touchdown pass to Ryan Williams was the exact same play as the very first drive that he overthrew Emmanuel Henderson. People were looking for a pass interference call. Alabama didn't get it, and he missed the field goal. I think that you are able to see growth in Jalen Milroe in, I missed the throw to Emmanuel Henderson on the first drive. We go back to the same play in the second drive, and it's Ryan Williams running out of the slot, and boom, I'm more dialed in. I think that he still has accuracy issues a little bit down the field, but his decision-making as far as who I'm throwing it to has definitely improved. And, of course, his playmaking ability, his athleticism, he's the best athlete in college football. And really just kind of an enigma. When he's so good, he's incredible and he's unstoppable. But when he's not good, it's very frustrating. He got 2 third-down completions to Justice Haynes that both went short of the sticks. I contend that the second one he could have hung in the pocket and probably let maybe a touchdown pass develop. There's just some things where sometimes, obviously, the Alabama fans complain about him holding the ball too long and bringing on sacks. But on Saturday, there was some instances of him just getting rid of the ball too quickly and not letting plays develop. So there's still a lot of room for growth in Jalen's game, but I think he's getting there under this new staff.
Yeah, I do too. I'm like you said, to count for 5 touchdowns, to have had 2 running touchdowns and at least 2 passing touchdowns in all 3 games puts him in very rare company. He's a Heisman candidate. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But your points are valid. I think there's still some things with this offense that he can grow in. And one of those, Joe, is like you said, just being a little more efficient in the offense. If the ball can come out a little quicker and they can get because down the field, he throws a beautiful ball. We saw it again. We saw it again on Saturday. But if the offense can operate a little bit tighter, some quicker plays to go along with the big play threats, don't you think the sky's the limit for this offense? They can be as dangerous as any offense in the country because the weapons are there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, Gary. Weapons all over the field at every position and really 2 and 3 deep at the skill positions. And so Nick Sheridan, it's an embarrassment of options and riches for him. I think that what you've seen out of Jalen over the first 3 weeks is when he's given a play call and an assignment where he's confident in his abilities, you saw it really on the second touchdown pass to, Jeremy Bernard. They motion a guy across the formation, leaving Jeremy Bernard one-on-one. And really, Jeremy Bernard just takes his man on a post corner. And I think that Jalen Milroe knew exactly what he was looking for on that play. So when he is comfortable with what he sees, I think the physical ability matches up, and you get the electric, you get the highlight plays. You just got to get the brain up to speed just a little bit on this offense as far as learning everything and what we're seeing as far as pre-snap goes. But he's really taken a lot of strides. I know it's not as easy to see early in the year with some of the inferior competition. But I do think he's taken a lot of strides in leading this offense before the snap.
The offensive line, wow, what an improvement. Of course, I was a little concerned about Caden Proctor from the simple standpoint that he hadn't played a game in nearly a year and didn't go through spring and gone to Iowa and come back to Alabama. But, boy, he played well, and I thought Pritchett at right tackle played well. You had the 2 guards, where they're supposed to be, Booker at left guard, Roberts at right guard. I thought Brailsford showed why there was so much excitement about him coming to play center. And Wilkenformy got in at right tackle some. He got some reps, but I thought the offensive line, it looked night and day from what we saw the previous week, Joe.
Well, it's just crazy, Gary. You finally get everybody in the right positions. And really what we saw was the week 1 game plan, but modified. We were expecting week 1 to see Elijah Pritchett and Formby rotate at right tackle. And so it's you get 3 weeks into the year, and you're finally to your week 1 game plan. Pritchett's kind of proven himself a little bit to this point after the South Florida performance. But, yeah, exactly, Gary. You get the right guys in the right positions, everybody back to being, healthy enough to play. There's no such thing as healthy at this point in the year, but healthy enough to play. I think the offensive line's incredible. The 36-yard touchdown run for Jam Miller it's really fun to watch because you can see the Wisconsin linebacker widening out to play Jalen Milroe, keeping the ball. But Jam Miller obviously gets the handoff in the right side of the line, just absolutely washes down the Wisconsin defense and the whole parts. And Jam Miller gets his third big old run in 3 weeks. I love this offensive line. I'd love to see them get into more physical downhill running as the season continues.
All right, Joe. Defensively, 10 points, man, allowed. They've allowed, very few points so far this season, and had a shutout in the first game. South Florida actually had the best offensive output in terms of points. So I thought it was a really solid game. But we still saw, and eventually you're going to play quarterbacks going to hit these throws. We still saw a couple, 3 times where receivers were wide open, and Wisconsin missed them. How big a concern is that?
I'm pretty concerned, Gary, with this defense, to be perfectly honest. I think that they've played obviously very aggressively over the last 3 weeks. But you look at the offenses they've played, they've been deficient. TJ Finley, deficient as a quarterback. Byron Brown, deficient as a passer. And really, you go to second-string quarterback, no disrespect to Braden Locke, but deficient as a passer as well. And so you've gone against 3 quarterbacks who really haven't gotten after you through the air. And then you're also seeing misfits in the running game consistently. You're giving up 4, 6, 7 yards. Now you're getting some really good fits as well. So it's kind of a mixed bag in the running game. I think there's still attention to detail that needs to clean up on the defensive side of the line. And look, that's what it should be with a brand new defensive system 3 weeks into it. You've finally seen live reps over 3 weeks where you're not, walking through against your offense in fall camp. I think the defense can get better and can be good enough for Alabama to win a national championship. But right now, you have instances of missed run fits and, a couple times where guys are getting blown by. Now, context, a lot of those times it's against a younger corner, but that's really what Alabama's got in the secondary, a lot of young players, so not many other options out there. I love Alabama's aggression. You've got sacks in every game. You've got the ball is on the ground in 2 out of the 3 games, and really was getting after it. You could have had many more turnovers on Saturday just if luck goes your way. So you're going really good in the aggression department, but just maybe needs to clean up a little bit on the attention to detail department as you face more difficult and more competent offenses.
Injuries a concern coming out of this game, and since we're on defense right now, we'll stay with that because Quay Russaw was playing at a very high level. His injury did not look good. Malachi Moore, a head injury. Coach DeBoer will update us a little bit later on, but have you heard anything on those guys? And, of course, I think the expectation is Malachi will be back. We don't know about Russaw, but, of course, that's part of football. But those are 2 key guys on that defense that went down on Saturday and didn't return.
Yeah, and you hate that for Quay Russaw because he started off the season so well. Alex Scarborough tweeted out earlier in the day that he believes that Quay Russaw did not suffer a significant injury, but there's still question marks to go on. That's the only real intel that I saw. Alex Scarborough at 24/7 Sports, who's also on the Alabama beat. And if with Malachi, you're just going through the concussion protocol, and you need him back. You need Malachi probably more than Quay Russaw just to get that young secondary set into place. Everybody's playing the same coverage each snap. So I think Malachi is very, very important. But tough. And Richard Young as well looks like might have suffered a similar fate as Quay Russaw. Still waiting to know. And the tough thing for Russaw, the Russaw injury, is Jahad Campbell doesn't come away with a clean tackle, and the ball carrier stumbles another 3-4 yards. There becomes a 8-car pileup, and that's where Quay Russaw ends up taking that knee injury, and so you just want to see cleaner tackling, but you're hopeful that Quay Russaw can come back pretty quickly.
And you mentioned Richard Young on offense. Disappointing for him because right now he's that third back, behind Miller and Haynes, but a guy who's got tons of ability, was going to get some extended playing time on Saturday and goes down with look like it might have been a knee injury. Tough break for Richard Young. Now, he's still got a lot of football in front of him. and I still think a really great and bright future for him and Daniel Hill. But disappointing to see Richard Young, when he was getting an opportunity to get in a little bit of a rhythm in that game, get hurt.
100%. And he's a guy, I think, that if he's not hurt, if he's not going to miss extended times and you can get him back in a couple of weeks, he's a guy that I think you're going to want to have involved in the offense really in November. You want to have him, okay, we got to worry about Richard Young coming off the bench or work him into a formation where there's two running backs. So, I mean, obviously you love Jam Miller and Justin Paynes, but I think Richard Young has a skill set that is valuable to this team getting downhill as well. I'd hate it if the news for him turns out to be kind of catastrophic. It's catastrophic.
All right, Joe. Looking ahead, I said this earlier on the show. Normally, of course, you know, first time in a long time we've had 2 buys during the season. But normally, 3 weeks into the season, you're saying, "Oh, we don't need a buy right now. You keep playing." But in this case, I think this spot comes at a perfect time for Alabama, with the 3 games in the books, knowing you got Georgia coming in here, and to have an opportunity kind of to hit the reset button a little bit and have extra time for preparation. I think this is a perfect bye week. What do you think?
I think you make a great point. And really, I had a friend that kind of pointed this out to me, Gary, that says this is set up a little bit like a preseason schedule. You played Western Kentucky, South Florida, and Wisconsin, slowly ramping up your opponents. Well, now you get your bye weekend, and it's on. I think you've got a lot of great tape over the last 3 weeks to show Jalen to say, okay, what concepts do we like over these 3 weeks? What concepts do you feel comfortable with? And what concepts do you think you need to, continue to hone in on? I think the live reps is so valuable to both offense and defense to look at on tape. And so, yeah, we've talked about the misfits defensively, and it's going to be really, really important 2 weeks over there on Saban Field in Bryant-Denny Stadium, because Georgia's going to be trying to run the ball, and if Kirby can not throw the ball at all, he's going to be happy to do that. But I think that you're exactly right. It just gives everybody, okay, hopefully you can get Malachi Moore out of concussion protocol. You get some good news on Claire Rusall, and everybody gets this chance to say, okay, we made it through maybe not in the technical first quarter of the season, but pretty much the first little stage of the season.
Joe, does it matter that Georgia struggled mightily against Kentucky? Is that a good thing for Alabama, a bad thing for Alabama? Does it really matter? Period. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of narrative this morning that, the worst thing that could have happened for Alabama was for Georgia to struggle at Kentucky. I don't know. I think, listen, this game was going to be big anyway. I think Georgia fans have hyped this game up so huge, trying to convince themselves that they were going to come in here and roll over Alabama. Now I think they're probably nervous. But this is kind of a standalone game, regardless of what's happened prior, don't you think?
100%. You said, the worst thing that could happen for Alabama, Georgia to play that. What, was Georgia not planning on playing well in Tuscaloosa? Were they not
exactly
getting up here in Tuscaloosa? I don't think it matters, their performance against Kentucky. Now, I do think Kirby's going to use it as motivation and use it as use it to press the buttons a little bit inside his own building. But no, I think that Georgia was always going to be, okay, we're going to be geared up to play well in Tuscaloosa. And, maybe there was a little bit of a looking ahead factor for Georgia. I mean, Kentucky, let's be honest, they got punked by South Carolina a couple of weeks ago. They're not a good football team. And so there's a little bit of there might have been a little bit of a looking ahead, not taking them so seriously. In my opinion, I think that maybe we're going to make too much of that Kentucky performance in the next 14 days. You won't, but maybe the national narrative will.
Joe Gaither from Bama Central with us this morning talking Bama football. I know you were at the Wisconsin game, so when you're, having covered a ton of games myself, when you're at a game, sometimes it's harder to follow other games. But there's a lot of discussion this morning, and there was a lot of discussion over the weekend on Sunday about the officiating in the SEC. Now, this is something that we've become accustomed to. It's a hard job. I think it's made harder by all the different aspects that they put into the game that they have to look for. First of all, no one really still understands the targeting rule. I mean, a kid in the Florida game got thrown out for targeting when he hit somebody in the legs. I mean, I don't, know what's going on here, but there was so many calls that in the Georgia-Kentucky game, in the LSU-South Carolina game, the officiating overall, Joe, do you think it's up to par in the SEC, or do you think it's below what the standard should be?
Well, Gary, I think it's for the SEC's sake, to answer your question directly, it's below the standard for what the SEC deserves, what the SEC expects. But to take it even further, I think, you look across the National Football League, it's below the standard everywhere. You got benches in the NFL. You see it on Friday nights, Gary, when you go out there and you're thinking, what are you doing, sir? You're marking off your penalty wrong. I mean, it's everywhere. And you've done the conversations before. Who wants to sign up to be an official? It's a tough job. And it
is.
The guys are
it's thankless. It is a thankless job.
Yes, exactly. Nobody wants to say, good job, Steve Shaw. They want to not know his name. So no, to answer your question, no, it's not up to par for the SEC. But I think that you've got an officiating problem at every level of football.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate that it seems like so many games, you look back on them and you say, a call here impacted the game. But it does, and that's why coaches try to teach their players, you just got to play through it and control the controllables. But it seemed to me, I watched a lot of games. Not being in Wisconsin, I got to watch a lot of games on television Saturday. And it unfortunately seemed like it was a bad weekend for SEC officiating. I will say that. Hey, great stuff, Joe. Before I let you go, basketball will be here before you know it. And, obviously coming off the program's first Final Four with the roster that Nate Oates has put together, what is more than likely going to be a top 3 preseason ranking. Just your initial thoughts on this Alabama basketball team, and can it go back-to-back to Final Fours? Can it win it all?
Well, Gary, I could not be more excited to cover Alabama basketball this year. And, yes, I do think this team can get back to a Final Four and win it all. The depth on this team is so astounding. It's really surprising. You look 1 through 13 and you say, oh, my gosh, all these guys could contribute to just about any college basketball program. And then you start singling out guys and their skill sets, and everything just pops off the page. I obviously want to see Mark Sears do well coming back for his kind of super senior year. But I'm probably more excited to see what this freshman LeBaron Philon has. I've heard that he's just kind of tearing it up in practice and that he's going to be something special to watch. So the whole team, from start to finish, the schedule is brutal. It's brutal in a wonderful way. Like, you get to play so many fun basketball programs, North Carolina, you going out to Las Vegas. It's just going to be such a great season. And really, for a school that forever has been, we're a football school, I think at this point you really just need to embrace both programs and say you've got 2 coaches and 2 programs that are operating at a really, really high level, and just enjoy it.
Joe, great stuff, man. I appreciate your time, and fill our listeners in on where they can find you.
Well, I am at Joe Gaither 6 on any social media machine. I write for Bama Central, the Alabama Crimson Tide on SI, and I've got the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central and on any of your favorite podcast platforms.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks so much, Gary.
Great stuff from Joe Gaither this morning, and we're going to take a timeout and come back and wrap up this first hour of the Gary Harris Show right after this.
Weekday mornings at 6 a.m. The Martin Houston Show.
Join the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier, powered by Fox Eye Care. For a Tuesday edition of the program, we'll add DC Capstone report to the conversation. We'll get his good, bad, and ugly. We'll get his key takeaways. We'll also take a jaunt around the SEC and the nation with him, and we'll get a little bit of that Georgia conversation. Those conversations and more, you can get in at it 205-342-9904. That's Empowerment Strategy Solutions Hotline, right here on your home for
feeling these changes within just a couple of days.
Text support to 511-511.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Tax fees may apply.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
We'll maintain the chance of a few scattered showers today, otherwise partially sunny, the high 81. Clear tonight, the low 63. Tomorrow and Wednesday, the sky partly to mostly sunny both days. Highs between 84 and 87. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
Covering University of Alabama sports, as well as the national and local scene as well. The Gary Harris Show, only on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Hey, Wednesday nights are karaoke night at Who's Q and Brew in the Northridge Center off Highway 82 in Tuscaloosa. Last Wednesday night was the first karaoke kickoff. I didn't get to go. Obviously, I was working, but I heard great things about it. I checked in with them People having a good time. Wednesday nights from 7:30 to 9:30, karaoke at Who's Q and Brew in Tuscaloosa. And, of course, don't forget, daily lunch specials, dinner specials, drink specials, and more at Who's Q and Brew. All right, it's going to wrap it up for hour number one. Our thanks to Joe Gaither from Bama Central for jumping in and subbing in for Rodney Orr, who has a speaking engagement this morning. We'll have Rodney on later on this week, probably try to get him on Wednesday. All right, this hour has been brought to you by Alabama Credit Union. Alabama Credit Union, loans for real life. All right, we're going to come back with hour number two. We're going to get to that Kalen DeBoer press conference from Saturday. Also, more of your phone calls and Casey Smith on golf. All that in the second hour of the Gary Harris Show.
Prescription RSV treatments. Check eligibility and schedule your RSV vaccine at vaxassist.com.
So where should we go next?
Sponsored by Pfizer.
WTBC Tuscaloosa and W265CG Tuscaloosa, a Town Square media station. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
From the Fox Sports Studios in Los Angeles, here's Nick Cope.
The Kansas City Chiefs are 2-0, but it has come with another significant injury. Reports say running back Isaiah Pacheco fractured his fibula during yesterday's win against the Bengals. ESPN says he'll have an MRI today to examine his ankle as well, but he is expected to be placed on injured reserve, sidelining him for at least 4 games. ESPN reports Lions receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown, who left yesterday's loss to the Buccaneers on the final drive, only has a contusion and some cramping. Sunday Night Football, Texans beat the Bears 19-13. Houston now 2-0 on the season. Bears rookie QB Caleb Williams was picked off twice.
Myself throwing 2 interceptions. It's not something that I've done. Something that I do is turn the ball over. It's not really my thing.
In college football, Texas is the new #1 team in the nation.
The Gary Harris Show. UCM host Tider Insider TV. Crimson Tide Kickoff. Play-by-play for Alabama sports and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, hour number 2 of the Gary Harris Show right here on Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM. WTBC, I'm your host, Gary Harris. Chase Brumfeld is back in the control room at the studio, taking care of all the heavy lifting and lining up your phone calls on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline. We're going to get right back out to some calls here in just a second. First, though, a couple of notes before we get to Tom out on the hotline. The SEC, of course, continues to dominate the top 25, but one thing I have noticed, of course, you got 16 teams. Not everybody's going to be good. There's just no way. But there are some teams that, after the first couple of weeks, that Mississippi State looks to be awful. Just absolutely awful. Getting run out of their own stadium by Toledo. And for all the confidence I tried to show in Vanderbilt, to go to Atlanta and lose to Georgia State. And some of these other teams, the book's out on them. But there's no doubt at the top, when you're talking Texas and Alabama and Georgia and Ole Miss, you're talking Tennessee, you're talking creme de la creme. You're talking about those 5 teams in particular, I think. And I know a lot of people are going to give them the Missouri bandwagon as well. I still think Missouri's good. I still don't consider Missouri elite. But those 5 teams that I rattled off, Alabama, Texas, Georgia, Ole Miss, and Tennessee, I think are elite football teams. So if you've got 5 elite teams in your conference, and a lot of people would add Missouri into that mix, and you'd have 6, that's pretty strong. But, mathematical facts are that not everybody can be good. It just doesn't work out that way. And I was sure hoping that Vanderbilt could get to 3-0, but they didn't. But coming out of this past weekend, SEC is a top-heavy league. There are some, as I said, elite teams, and then there's that next group, and then there's the bottom group. And, you got Auburn, Arkansas, teams like that are trying to, I think, not be considered in the bottom group. That's a big game coming up between Auburn and Arkansas this Saturday because The loser of that game, whew, it ain't going to be looking good. The winner's going to have some hope. All right, let's jump out on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline, and Tom is going to begin this second hour for us. Hey, good morning, Tom.
Hey, Gary, good morning. Good show so far. Enjoyed it.
Thanks.
And it was good to hear from Gaither. That was good. And
I wanted to something. It was a situation where Joe was in Madison and Rodney Orr couldn't be with us this morning. So I said, you know what? I'm going to bring back Joe Gaither for a blast from the past, and some good insight there from him. Glad you enjoyed it.
That was a good list. It's good to hear from him. I wanted to talk to you, though. You had brought up about in the intro portion of your show about people wishing and hoping that Alabama would be falling on their face. And I said the same thing to Philip this morning. Me and him had a little discussion about Tim Brando not ranking Alabama in the top 25. And I pointed out to Philip that Brando's always been a Bama hater. I don't care what anybody says, and I don't care who defends him or anything else. He's a Bama hater, and always has been. And the worse LSU plays, the more he hates Alabama because he knows what's coming. And so, but two, he and T. Booty Abear and Matt Muscooty and that crowd, they were dancing on Alabama's grave early in the preseason. Matter of fact, spring, and they were talking about who they were recruiting and flipping somebody from SMU and this, that, and the other. They were acting like that was a negative. And basically they were dancing on Alabama's grave. Now, guess what's happened? Alabama's come out and looked pretty good for the start of the season. LSU looked like crap, like everybody knew they were. And they're not a very good team. Don't have a good coach. You say what you want to. Kelly is not a good coach. And so they're reading the dreaded writing on the wall. And it's killing them. It's killing them. But you know, Gaither, it was the one said, you know what, you better watch out. Before you dance on Alabama's grave, I've seen this movie before. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I've seen it a lot of times. And to get to the Brando situation, I think Whippenberry are going to have him on Friday, which is something to look forward to, Tom. But it's not a top 25, but he does a top 15. And his top 15, he had Alabama just outside with Northern Illinois. And I'm with you there. He can say whatever he wants to say, and he'll continually bring up his track record of, you know, I've been broadcasting college football for 40 years and this and that. And I get it. You know, he's a very accomplished broadcaster. I've had him on my show. I think at one time, I thought he was one of the top, you know, play-by-play guys going. But just because you've called college football for 40 years, your opinion is still just your opinion. And I don't think that there's anybody that's objective. If you want to say Alabama's not a top 5 team, okay. You know, if you want to say they're not a top 10 team, that's iffy. But to say they're not even a top 15 team right now, by any analytics or any measure or any eye test, to say Alabama isn't a top 15 team, then either you're biased or I don't know what you're looking at. If you think there are 15 teams right now that are better than the Alabama Crimson Tide, and he kept. I was reading his X account yesterday after he posted it, and people started coming after him, and he just said, you know, I don't care about the brand. I look at the team, and they really struggled against South Florida. And they went into Wisconsin and blew out a Big Ten team on the road in a game that a lot of people thought would be very competitive. And he said, well, Wisconsin lost their quarterback. And somebody pointed out, well, look how Georgia struggled. Well, that's not the same thing. That's the SEC on Saturday night. Yeah, the same SEC on Saturday night, or that Alabama didn't lose a road game in last year. You know what I mean? So he's been on this narrative for a while. For the past several years, he keeps thinking Alabama's going to run out of gas, and then they don't.
40
And
years.
instead of trying to just say I was wrong, he just basically doubles down. And I think what he feels like is eventually he's going to be right. Eventually Alabama's going to slip. And when they do, he's going to say, I told you so. Well, you've been telling us so for 4 or 5 years. But I'm with you. I'm anxious to hear him on with Winston Berry on Friday, and I'm hoping Berry will grill him a little bit because I don't think Wimp will. But that'll be an interesting conversation.
Listen to this. He hopes he's right. He doesn't know. He hopes he's right. He hopes Alabama fails. He begs the Lord for Alabama to fail. That is it's the way he's been for 40 years. And it all goes back, and Coach Sanderson will not believe me. He won't buy into what I tell him. It all goes back to basketball and his relationship with Dale Brown and Coach Sanderson putting it on Dale Brown's ass every time you turn around. And it chaps him when he hears the word Alabama. Now, here's where you know it was venomous. He got his top 15. He listed that. And he at the bottom, he said, first team out, Alabama. Now, that's where you know it's venomous.
Well, like I said, I don't see how you could be objective and say Alabama's not one of the 15. Yeah, I don't see by any logic, whether you're using analytics, you're using the eye test, you're using recent performance of a team that last year won the SEC championship and went to the college football playoff and lost in overtime at the Rose Bowl to Michigan, returned their quarterback. To me, there's no way that Alabama's not a top 15 team. And for him to not have, but I tell you what he's counting on. He's counting on it, and I don't know how he'll backtrack. He's counting on Georgia beating Alabama. Just like you said, he just keeps doubling down. And then he'll say, I told you so, even though Georgia's, one of the best teams in the country. But if Alabama beats Georgia, I'm going to be really interested to see how he frames it. I'm going to be really interested to see if he jumps Alabama up to the top 2 in the country, if not number 1. So we'll see what happens. But I think he's pretty confident that Alabama's not going to win that game.
His hate produces venom, and that's what that was. He was trying to insult Alabama. That's what his goal was with that top 15. I don't care what you say. Even you, and which you are always quick to defend media people and entitling them to opinion, even when I can see past the facade that they put up front. It is obvious that it was nothing more than an insult to Alabama because even by your own measure, you said anybody that knows anything about football would have had Alabama in top 5.
I just said that I don't see how you could use any metric, whether it's analytics, your eye test, recent performance, and not have Alabama as a top 15 team. I didn't say anybody knows anything about college football or top 5. You could make an argument. If you said Alabama wasn't a top 5 team right now, Tom, I would disagree with you, but I would say, okay.
At worst.
But if you're saying Alabama's not a top 15 team, then yeah, I don't know. And he is going to go to his record every time. He's like a politician. Every time you challenge him, he's basically going to say, I know more than you do. I've been calling football for 40-something years. I've done the NFL. In fact, yesterday when somebody was going back and forth with him, he said, I'm sorry, but I got to prepare for an NFL game. Okay, I don't have time for you because I've got, I call NFL and I call college football, even though he's calling the Friday night game now. So he's always going to come back with, I'm more accomplished than you. And basically, he comes across at least as saying, even though he would tell you that that's not on Friday when he's along with Berry, he'll have all his answers ready to go. And he will tell you that that's not what he's saying, but basically what he likes to tell people is, I know more than you. My opinion is more valuable to you. So we'll see how he handles that interview.
You are right about one thing now, but you'll not find anybody more prepared than Brando on a broadcast.
Oh, he's outstanding. I've always said, you've heard me say on my show, and I've had him on twice. Back when James Hardy was producing for me, I had him on a couple of times, and the interviews were fine. but we didn't necessarily, and I don't know him like some people do, Wimpenberry, I'm not friends with him. It wasn't a bad interview, but he didn't really, it kind of came across as, yeah, I'm doing this interview, but it's not, it's not a priority for me. I see on social media when he does certain shows that he does, he feels like they add credibility to him, so he'll go out there and promote them. And you know the ones I'm talking about, a lot of the YouTube shows. But when he does, he did my show a couple times, and I've seen where he's done other shows where they don't even really warrant a mention. So, but anyway, that's just my opinion. He's got a right to his opinion. He is a very accomplished broadcaster, and I will be interested on Friday to listening to him with Wimp and Barry. And I hope Barry gets after him a little bit because Wimp won't. Wimp has a history of fawning all over Tim Brando. So we'll see how the interview goes.
I got to tell you this. Hold on. Yeah, you're talking about opinion and everything else, but people that do opinions publicly, they need to, for people to listen to them, they need to have credibility. There's no credibility in that poll.
Well, it's just his opinion. It's an opinion poll, and but I'm with you, Tom. Listen, I put it out on my social media, on my Gary Harris WVUA 23 Facebook page. I put out the AP Top 25, and I said, meanwhile, this is the Tim Brando poll with an eye roll. It's like, how in the world do you not have him in the top 15? But it makes for great conversation. And another thing that he understands is, you battle to be relevant in this day and age, particularly as you get older. I can say that because I'm now, as you know, in my 60s. And I think sometimes when you attack, or not attack, but when you make, Alabama part of your resume and you do it the way he's doing it, it's going to get a lot of eyeballs on it. It's going to get you a lot of attention. And he does like attention. I mean, he's been doing this for a long time. He's done it at the highest level. And I think that he likes stirring stirring it up a little bit. And when you put Alabama outside the top 15 after they just went into the Big Ten and beat Wisconsin 42-10 on their stadium, that's going to get a lot of attention and garner a lot of talking points and stir a lot of people up.
I called your show. The reason I called your show was to point out that it's not credible. There's no, like you said, nobody that knows anything about college football would have ever made a poll like that leaving Alabama out. Even Alabama, at worst, is a top 10 team.
Well, he did it, and I guess what I'm saying is he's credible in the sense that he is a credible reporter. But yeah, I don't put any stock in his poll. That's for sure.
You just won't say that's not credible. You just will not say it.
Well, I've said everything that I have to say. I'm not going to say something I don't want to say. It's credible in the fact that he is a nationally recognized broadcaster, and he has credibility. So that brings credibility to the poll. But the thought process that Alabama's not a top 15 team, obviously I disagree with it, just like you do. I think it's ridiculous not to put him in the top 15. I've said that.
Whatever.
But I'm not going to say he's not credible because he is. He is a credible, nationally recognized broadcaster that has a flawed opinion, but he still has credibility.
Whatever. I cannot believe I'm hearing that.
No, you're going to hear it because I believe that. He has credibility. Now, his opinion is flawed, but he is a credible broadcaster. He is. There's no other way around it.
Here.
All right, Tom, got to run, man.
Whatever. Bye.
All right, 10:17 here on the Gary Harris Show. And it's not summer. Well, technically it is summer. It's still summer. But you know what I mean. Fall's right around the corner. But this is the best time of the year to play golf. It really, really is. And Tall Pines in Tuscaloosa is a hidden gem in East Tuscaloosa. They are available for free play or for public play, not free. You do have to pay the greens fees. But they're not open on Monday, but they're open 6 days a week, Tuesday through Sunday. And would love for you to go out there and try it out. Call to make a tee time, 205.
100% satisfaction and appointments set around your schedule. Give us a call for all your steam cleaning needs, 205-553-9460. Houston Hydro Steam. Quality work you can stand on.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
We'll maintain the chance of a few scattered showers today, otherwise partially sunny, the high 81. Clear tonight, the low 63. Tomorrow and Wednesday, the sky partly to mostly sunny both days. Highs between 84 and 87. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
Need to know what's going on with the Crimson Tide? Then subscribe to our YouTube channel for exclusive content on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, 10:21 here on the Gary Harris Show on this Monday, September 16th. Coach DeBoer meeting with the media today at noon. The coordinators, Kane Womack and Nick Sheridan, at 11:30. So we'll look forward to that, even though there's not a game coming up this Saturday. Speaking of Coach DeBoer, 42-10 Alabama over Wisconsin at Camp Randall Stadium on Saturday. And Coach DeBoer met with the media afterwards. And we're going to have that for you now. We're going to play Coach DeBoer. This is from Saturday afternoon in Madison, Wisconsin, after Alabama beat the Wisconsin Badgers 42-10.
Just proud of the guys. Thought it was a solid overall performance. Team football, getting the takeaways and putting points on the board when we got the ball back, getting a stop on fourth down, scoring, getting the field goal, forcing them to a field goal at the end of the half, and then the offense responding with a quick drive. I think, and then coming back in the third quarter too. Those are big swings in momentum, and I think our guys with their energy. It was there all week, just knowing that the only choice is always to go back to work, and that's the way it's always going to be. And they did exactly that. I thought it was the best rhythm to practice, and I think they're getting into the flow now of what a game plan week looks like. Last week was the first week where you had your typical week and not some extra days, and this week you could just feel it was all kind of syncing up. So was expecting a good performance, and it's never going to be perfect, but a lot of great things to build off of.
Thanks, Coach. We have some questions right here in the front row. Charlie, go ahead and start some. It's just give an update on Malachi.
Yep. Malachi got hit to the head, so I think we're just going through probably the protocol with him, and it helps having a bye week here. So I'm thinking he'll be all right and be fine. Rusaw, lower leg. I don't know exactly where, but I know it is lower. And, we'll just continue to evaluate with him. And who's the third one? Richard Young, I think same thing. So just lower leg. I think actually very similar, below the knee area. So we'll continue to evaluate those guys. Definitely good to have a couple weeks here getting ready.
Nick?
Yeah, the offensive line, now that you're able to get Proctor back, and then you have Elijah on the right side, what do you see from them today, and what do you think click ball for them?
Yeah, I thought they just did a consistent job of making sure Jalen, could stay upright, wasn't rushed, hurried. It's amazing how your play calls can just be so much easier, and you're down in distances that much more favorable when you can protect your quarterback and make every throw count. Where there's not throwaways where you're getting hit, and I thought there was just good gelling, considering it was really their first game action altogether, and then. Between running backs and Jalen, just finding the different ways to attack with the run game, and they just, opened up the seams. And I felt like really not any missed assignments. I'm sure there's something in there that we'll find, but when it came to run the football, just getting those big bodies all working together, and whatever play was called, I felt like they were, in sync and giving us a chance, and then letting Jam, and I know Jam had a big game, and then Jalen as well. So I liked the balance of what we were able to do, both run and pass, and that starts up front.
Katie, you had a question on the left?
You and Kane both talked this week about turnovers. How pleased were you with how aggressive the defense was, forcing 4 turnovers?
Yeah, those 2 strip sacks, those 2 strips could have been really big for us, but that was – getting them early, getting one early, and just getting that momentum, it just becomes contagious, and I love it. The guys have a lot of confidence. We almost had an interception there with Keon early too, and so those guys are playing aggressive, playing confident, and they're going to come in bunches. And I feel like we're just still at the tip of the iceberg of what we can do when it comes to taking the ball away.
Matt?
Big day for LT Overton. What do you think of how he played?
he's, you expect that from him, and he's just going to be continually coming after you, and it's not just against one or the other, run or pass. It's both. He's just a physical presence in there. Love the way he plays. It's a business-like approach that he has, whether it's in practice or games. I just got a lot of trust and confidence that he's going to bring his best, and he fits so well within our scheme. And I know we're very confident, whatever it is, if he's got something we're asking him to do, that he's going to get it done, and make sure he, first of all, takes care of his responsibility, and then, goes and eats and goes make plays.
Chase, go ahead.
I want to ask you about the first touchdown pass that Milroe threw to Ryan Williams in the end zone. It looked like the trajectory was pretty low, which kind of allowed him to hit that pass because he might have run out of room in the back of the end zone if he'd have laid it out higher. What do you think of that throw?
Yeah, I thought it was right on the money, and I love what Jalen did with those balls that were down the field. Gave our guys a chance. Now our guys did a nice job of getting some separation there too, and Ryan, in that case, you get a step, let's get it done. And like as you said, you get to the back of the end zone or towards the sideline. Both those things were coming on Ryan quickly, but because of the trajectory, and I think it goes back to, again, Jalen had some time back there. He had a second to really sort things out, see it, not feel rushed, and put a good ball on Ryan, and Ryan, tracking it and doing what he does.
Second row, Ryan, let's go to Alex and Coach. First road test coming off of the shaky performance against South Florida for the first part of that game. How'd you like how they responded? And also, just what went into the decision to start Pritchett as right tackle?
Yep, you just, Pritchett being healthy and just finding that, really between Caden, Pritchett, and the rest of the crew, we felt very confident, going into week one, and Wilkin will continue to, work in the mix and be a part of it as well. And Gino came in and did a nice job spelling some snaps there too. So we're gonna need them all. We're gonna need them all. I just know how a season goes, and they're just gonna always keep getting better. And that was the first question.
Just about coming off of a shaky performance.
Yeah.
Going on the road.
Yeah, on the road. I just, there was a business-like approach to us in the locker room pregame. There was a lot of energy, a lot of fire. I think that's just these guys and their passion. It's impressive being in here, and it's impressive at halftime as you're getting the momentum that they can just really have that confidence, the energy being sustained. It's something I'm really learning about our guys, and you see it in practice, and you think that that's what's going to be, and you just never know. And here we are 3 weeks in, and I'm really pleased with how they, have that business-like approach, but there's a lot of energy too. Because some teams, you have so much energy that you really, you start making those mistakes. And I feel like we were able to hone it in the right things and focus it on the right spots, and that's playing well.
All right, left side, Joe.
I'd like to ask you about the other touchdown pass to Jerry Bernard down on this end. What did you see with Jalen Milroe and the placement on that ball?
Yeah, that one's a route that takes a little time to develop, a little post corner route. I thought it was a great play call. When I heard it, I loved it, and just staying aggressive. Obviously, the clock, we had to do that, but the time that it took, because it does develop a little bit slower, and Germ doing a good job of clearing and not running into, and using just the veteran savviness that he has to set the direction, set the path that he was going to be on. And Jalen, again, giving him a chance, a 1 yard wider, and that's an incomplete pass, and Germ catching it first and then getting his feet down. And so just great execution all around.
We got 3 more questions left. Let's stand it up on the back left.
Just want to stop at the end of the first half sequence. There's a video of the coach in one possession, 2 quick plays, touchdown. What was the mentality of the message to the team? Be aggressive.
Yeah, well, and it happens. I mean, we're going to be aggressive. We had 3 timeouts, and so a lot of time with those timeouts. And so, when you got playmakers like we have, you want to give them chances to make plays, and every possession matters. And we went after it, and the first throw down the sideline to Ryan really set things up well. To now we're looking at getting points no matter what. Love the aggressiveness again with the play call to go the post corner to Germ. And then in the locker room, just really not being happy and satisfied with that score, coming back out and doing a good job of executing the next drive. I think that shows growth in our team, that you can do it back to back in those big moments where really, their team didn't touch the ball and all of a sudden there's 14 points put on the board.
All right, great stuff there from Kayla DeBoer on Saturday afternoon following Alabama's 42-10 win over the Wisconsin Badgers up in Madison. All right, we're going to take a timeout. We're going to come back with Casey Smith on golf. Should be a really...
You in control. Visit chase.com/checking. Chase, make more of what's yours.
Chase mobile app is available for select mobile devices. Message and data rates may apply. JP Morgan Chase Bank N.A. member FDIC.
You see him on WVUA 23 covering sports and on Tider Insider TV on Tuesday nights. Don't miss a minute of the Gary Harris Show. Weekdays from 9 to 11 on Tide 100.9.
All right, 10:33. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show. It's time for Casey Smith on golf and a busy Monday morning for us because we got a lot to cover. Good morning, Casey. How are you?
I am doing great. Thanks, Gary. Hope you're well.
Doing great. A lot of topics to get to, but let's begin with Patton Kizzire, Tuscaloosa native. Dad Maxie played baseball for the Crimson Tide. Patton went to TA, then Central, and then, of course, wound up graduating from Northridge. And chose to play for the Auburn Tigers, but had a great career there and really good player on the PGA Tour, but had hit one of those lulls that often happens, even to good players. 6 years without a victory. He had 2 career victories on tour, but that changed on Sunday. He took I think a 4-shot lead into the final round, and really, there were a couple times that you thought somebody might have a chance to catch him, but he played solid, closed it out in style, and I think wound up winning by 5 shots and got his 3rd career victory in his first in 6 years.
Yeah, I mean, congrats, Pat Kizzire, one of the nicest people out on the PGA Tour, regarded by all. They all really liked him, just a great guy. He shot 68, 65, 67, 70. That bogey-free round, second round, really propelled him, got him out front. I heard what he said, too, about just really he was so proud of himself for not looking back and just looking ahead and really playing a golf to stay ahead because, out there, they're all coming for you so much. But, yeah, first win in 6 years, it gets him. He moves from 140th to 70th, and everyone in the top 125 obviously retains their card at the end of this fall season. Last year, he finished 129, so it was the first year he had ever lost his card conditionally, a condition status. So, this means a lot for him and his family. I mean, you're really locked in now. You're going to get to play in the Masters. You're going to get to play in the U.S. Open. You're going to play in the PGA, the Players. I mean, so many events. You get to play in the Tournament of Champions. So there really is, and you never know. You might find lightning in the bottle here that this good golf can continue. He's a great golfer, an accomplished player. My friend Justin Parsons has been a teacher for a few years. Randomly, Justin was out there. Usually the teachers go in, they're there on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and they leave. Justin works with some of them, and majors he'll stay some. But Harris English's caddy had a function. And so he was out, and Justin teaches Harris English, another Sea Island guy, and he was there on his bag all week. He was there working, able to work with Patton on the weekend. So I don't know if that had any effect. I'm sure it just doesn't hurt. But Patton picked up 10 shots on the field with his putter. And that's, that's something some of the other guys that we follow would love to see happen for them as well.
No doubt about it. Procore Championship, Napa, California. Patton Kizzire picked up $1 million plus too. Let's not minimize the result of a good pocketbook tournament too. That helps the family as well. But you and I talked about this last week. For the marquee players, this fall swing doesn't mean a lot. They won't even play the events. But for guys like Patton, this was not only a win, but like you said, it kind of solidifies him now going forward. And you get that pressure off of you, and he's capable of winning some more events. There's no doubt about that.
Oh, I mean, he can win any event. This guy's really, 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 really good. He's played 242 PGA Tour events. He's made the cut in 141 of them. Three wins, 2 runner-ups, 2 thirds, a bunch of top 10s, a bunch of 25 top 10s. He's earned he's made $14 million on course. It means he's probably made about 10 off course. So he's had a heck of a career with, more good golf ahead. I think that win's got to feel good to know that after finishing on the other side of that conditional status and having to, you're playing an uphill battle all year this year because you didn't get in a bunch of events that you normally would have played in, had an opportunity to earn money and enhance status. So to get this win when you're already outside that number again, for his confidence, golf being such a sport that relies on that, he's got to be through the roof today, not to mention obviously the paydays and all that, but really having your job for 2 years, playing in the majors, playing in the Tournament of Champions, the elevated events. I mean, it's something he didn't get to do this year, and now you're playing good golf. So he's got to be very happy because he played really dominant golf, and there were a lot of good players in the field.
We're still a week away from the President's Cup, and we discussed this last week, but I've seen some other chatter about it on social media. There are a number of people, I'm not going to say a ton, that are a little bit confused and miffed that, as you said last week, that Jim Furyk just went chalk, that after the automatic qualifiers, he just went straight down the points list, and the fact that had Nick Dunlap been given those 500 points for his win at the Amex, he would have been on the team anyway. I think a lot of people are just puzzled that, like you said last week, you summed it up. Not only you're taking one of the top young players in the game, he's 20 years old, you're letting him build experience for future international team events, but also you're adding a little pizzazz to this President's Cup, because I'm going to tell you, there's not a lot of buzz about this. I'm sorry. There's just not much buzz about the President's Cup, and that's unfortunate. And the international team has gotten stronger in recent years. I just think this was a great opportunity for Jim Furyk and the President's Cup team to put Nick Dunlap on the squad and really add some juice to the President's Cup, and Jim Furyk chose not to do that. Disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that, like I said last week, even another week later, it's even more apparent to me that it was a lazier pick. They couldn't even get someone to fill in the assistant captain role when Keegan makes the team. JT said, no thanks. Tiger Woods, none of those guys were doing it, right? They're like, I don't want to really do that. And I get it. Hey, it's their off season. Do whatever you want. They would never turn down that in a Ryder Cup. I'm a little shocked for the President's Cup, but the way it's been sort of gone about, I guess you'd say, is this is Jim Furyk was a Ryder Cup captain. Come on, don't have an ego here and put something into it. There's definitely guys that would love to have had the captain role and handled it with not as lazy of a take. I think Nick Dunlap deserves to be there, and how would he ever get on there? Just doesn't make any sense to me. I get leaving JT off, fine, whatever. But Nick Dunlap, I don't think you can leave him off. There's too many opportunities to mix him with some of these guys. And when was the last time we had a guy that was a rookie on tour that came from, wasn't even supposed to be on tour? The more I thought about this part, wasn't supposed to be on tour, and then he goes out there and wins again. So that validates how good he is. He didn't just win in a fluke as an amateur. He won again. He just had a good year. So, shame on that. Shame on them for someone not stepping in and getting him involved in this event.
Jon Rahm wins the individual championship for LIV. And, again, I didn't even think Jon Rahm played that well this year. That shows you how out of whack I still am on LIV, and the fact that I still don't think LIV, until it's combined back with the PGA Tour, has any credibility. I could not even have told you. My impression was that Jon Rahm did not have a great year, but he's the LIV champion, so he gets a lot more money. If that's possible, without how much he's already made. But you continue to say that you think we're close to kind of putting this back together. But I'm where you're at now. I'm ready now because the best players need to be playing together. I can't stand Live. I've never liked it. I've never liked the money grab. I've never liked what it stands for. Having said that, we need to see the best players playing together week to week. And are we closer to that, Casey?
Yeah, I mean, congrats to John Rahm. He finished in the top 10 in all 13 Live events. He did not play well when I think you probably watched. He was T45. An MC, he had a WD, he was hurt, and a T7 in the 4 majors where you would have paid attention. So, he didn't play in one. He makes the cut in one, finishes T7 in one. You don't have as many. In the Live season, he earned $38.2 million this year, an $18 million bonus just winning the individual championship, and his team's got a chance to win. I would say this, something just I've kept an eye on. Live now, in the U.S.-based events, they were struggling with attendance. The last 2, they've set attendance records, and they set attendance records again in Chicago. And as Ed Rahm said, there was a lot of scuttle about me not, but he said there was a lot of conjecture. It's just different. I'm getting used to it. It's been nice being a captain and having, giving advice to a couple of younger players. It's also been, getting to drive my kids to school today, whether you saw it today. And having that freedom, I think all of that's been great for him. I think it's, the relevancy every week. He's a golf historian that you're sort of excluded from. And then are they going to get the Ryder Cup, everyone back together for the Ryder Cup? That's his biggest concern. I think it's going to get done. What will be interesting is to see if anyone else defects first, because I hear they're chasing Hideki Matsuyama pretty hard. He's got no real bandwidth here in the U.S. He continues to play well, but Liv's chasing him for a crazy number. And I know that's just a protecting asset. It would be their highest paid player, which is really shocking, but golf's, they're golf crazy in Japan. So their product is definitely growing. I just don't know, and they're growing in person. I don't think it's growing in terms of ratings yet. But I do think for it to be relevant, or however this is going to look when they do sort of come together. But I think you see them in the next 6 months, some type of deal is done, if not sooner.
All right, let me ask you this, because we're talking about, and I'm with you, I'm disappointed the President's Cup does not have more pizzazz, because it should. It really is a nice concept. Hey, you've got USA versus Europe, USA versus International is a natural, and you're right, it's still a prestigious event. And it's just disappointing to me that it doesn't have more hype and that more people aren't, like you said, don't even want to be assistant captains. But if you're passed over as a player, some of these guys aren't going to come back and be assistant captains. Having said that, if something doesn't get put together right away with Liv and the PGA Tour, you talk about something that would stir something up, buddy. You take 12 top PGA players and you take 12 top Liv players, and you let them play against each other. That would generate buzz. And I've got an idea for you, Casey, that somebody passed along to me that I think would be awesome. And you could do it for charity, because these guys, you probably couldn't pay enough money. But wouldn't it be neat if you had an SEC challenge? If you took the 16 SEC schools and you had, because there's enough with, pro contacts, or if you didn't have enough, then you wouldn't play. But so you had like an SEC challenge that maybe you could put on for charity, and you took some top players from each, say 2 from each SEC school, and had a little tournament like that. Just something to kind of in this time when you don't have a lot of golf, you could put some stuff together, couldn't you?
Oh yeah, I think there's probably some obligations for them or their contracts that might keep them from some of that. But yeah, I would assume so. I saw where Justin Thomas just had his foundation event over the weekend in Nashville at Troubadour Club, raised a bunch of money, and all those guys were there. I mean, Dunlap was there, but Scotty Scheffler's and Jordan Spieth and all your top name players in the States were there, plus country music singers. So you absolutely could do that. And the U.S. wins on the note of the President's Cup. The U.S. wins the Solheim Cup for the first time since 2017 over the weekend. And
well, I was going there. I hadn't forgotten about that.
The captain, Stacey Lewis, in the post press conference suggested that the President's Cup become a mixed event. That would give the men would have a Ryder Cup and the women have Solheim Cup, and the Jazz Cup, they would make it a mixed event. 6 men.
Not a bad idea.
From each side, and they would play as partners together. Given the top end right now, it might be. I mean, and given the draw to who's in the international side, and the eyeballs they're trying to get, might be because the Korean golf fan or the ones that would make up the women's team, they obviously tune into everything golf related when their locals are playing.
Yeah, well, that's not a bad idea. All right, speaking of the Solheim Cup, boy, what a it looked like that the U.S. might run away and hide, and then it came a miraculous finish yesterday for the U.S. to win their first Solheim Cup in several years.
Yeah, I mean, big win for them. Talented team. I sort of like the format a little bit where they end on a team concept, and then they're playing individuals in the morning. I mean, I thought when Nelly Korda got blown out by Charlie Hull, Charlie Hull's, smoking heaters walking down the fairway.
Yeah.
and just letting it rip. It's like John Daly out there. And she drills her 6 and 4. And then Nelly comes back in the afternoon, and she gained 7.5 strokes on the field in an afternoon session. And all of the Ryder Cups that have ever been played, or Solheim Cups, no one's ever played like that. They statistically had the greatest match of any match play event ever. So, if she pulls out all of her putts and stuff, and it's not, there's not gimmies and you don't close someone out, I mean, she's tracking towards 58, 59 rounds in her own ball, which is obviously very impressive. So big win for them. Now they'll get to go to Europe and try to bring it back.
And lastly, the Foes of Honor Collegiate Championship last week on the shores of beautiful Lake Michigan. What a tournament for Alabama. Revamped squad. Of course, now, had a year removed from Nick Dunlap. He was not going to be on this team regardless. So you can finally turn that page. And Dominic Clemens, who they brought in, transfer, wins the individual title in grand style, shot 9 under par, and Alabama's team outdistanced a great field. I think they wound up winning by 5 shots. What a great way to start the fall season for Alabama men's golf with some new blood. And does this go ahead and pronounce Alabama as a national championship contender for 2025?
I mean, it has to. They were ranked 16th, and they beat Illinois by 7 shots and Texas by 9.
7, okay, yeah.
Powerhouse teams, right? And the thing that I sort of looked in and dove in a little bit is they had multiple, you're playing 5, you count 4 scores for those out there that didn't know how college golf works. And you have these guys who obviously you want to have some guys who have low numbers in their bag. And hopefully you just count the right 4 of those days. I mean, Jones Free shot 80, 64, and Jack Mitchell shot 64. So you got 64 in different rounds in addition to Dominic Clemens winning the individual title. And he beat Tommy Morrison at Texas as well. So Clemens transferred from Hutchinson Community College, and he's English. He is he went to Stetson initially and then transferred, but he's a really, really good player. And I think that Alabama, I mean, this will get them in the top 3, 4, and you'd have to think they got to feel pretty good about that going up there in Illinois territory. And then they're at Illinois, they're playing in Illinois this week. So you'll see see what you look like after you win. They're going to come back. If this team has another good showing, sky's the limit for them. And then the women kick off in Hoover today at UAB's event.
And with that new golf facility, man, both Alabama men's and women's golf are just
player recruiting. Yeah, player development, player recruiting will just never be any better. I mean, that's as fine a facility as there is anywhere in the world for golf.
Yeah, it's exciting times. Hey, great stuff, Casey. Tell our listeners where they can find you on social media. Of course, most of the stuff you do with me here is on the podcast center and available your podcast. But in case somebody wants to give you a follow out there on X or Twitter or Twix, whatever they call it.
Thanks, Gary Smith, KC10. And hey, by the way, that was a pretty easy win for anyone that took Alabama on that 21+ points I was calling the other day. So big win for the Tide, and my natives over here, the Georgia Dogs, are sweating a little bit. They thought they were the team to beat, and roles are reversed maybe a little bit coming in 2 weeks.
Yeah, they almost got beat. Thank you, Casey.
Have a good one.
All right, it's 10:52. We'll take our final break and come back and wrap up this edition of the Gary Harris Show. Get you ready for T-Town Sports Daily. We'll do that next.
Weekday mornings at 6 a.m. The Martin Houston Show.
Join the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier, powered by Fox Eye Care. For a Tuesday edition of the program, we'll add DC Capstone report to the conversation. We'll get his good, bad, and ugly. We'll get his key takeaways. We'll also take a jaunt around the SEC and the nation with him, and we'll get a little bit of that Georgia conversation. Those conversations and more, you can get in at it 205-342-9904. That's Empowerment Strategy Solutions Hotline, right here on your home.
To their developmental level, physically, emotionally, and psychologically. DCH Pediatrics, making a big difference in little lives.
For more from Tide 100.9, let it fly and follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and SoundCloud.
All right, 10:55. Chase has let me know that Bryce is on the line, and we got literally 2 minutes. So, Bryce, you got the final 2 minutes of the show, my friend.
Oh, Gary, I thought we did good. We went out and took care of business. We just got to clean some stuff up, improve every week, and get ready for Georgia, because we're not going to see the same Georgia team we saw Saturday night. We're going to see
that's fair,
and give us our best game.
That's right. And, Alabama needs to give Georgia its best game. And right now I feel like if Alabama gets, at home, plays its best game, and Georgia plays its best game, I think Alabama's going to win the game. I really do.
Yeah, it's going to be a rock fight. But, however, Brando, he was hoping when Saban left that Bama would just fall by the wayside. That's what he was hoping, and that's why he said what he said, because he's mad that he knows that LSU is not going to be able to contend with Alabama unless they really improve a whole lot. South Carolina had the game won. The guy makes a boneheaded move. Anytime you hit the quarterback, they're going to call it.
Yeah, it was a bad play. It was absolutely a bad player. So, all right, well, listen, Bryce, we're going to close it out with you, my friend. I appreciate it, and call back tomorrow when we have more time. All right, that's going to wrap it up for this edition of the Gary Harris Show. I know there's another caller that we couldn't get to. I'm sorry about that, but we got to get out on time. And he can, the caller, I don't know who it is. Like I said, I'm not in studio today, but you can hold on and talk to Wyatt if you'd like, or call me back tomorrow. That's for sure. All right, I appreciate everybody tuning in this morning. And reminder, catch me on TV tonight with the local sports on WVUA 23. And then back here tomorrow at 9 a.m., we'll have Rudy Armand and Kayla Anderson among our guests tomorrow to talk Bama football and the Titans. That's tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. T-Town Sports Daily with Wyatt and Chase is coming up next. Have a great day, everybody. We'll talk to you again tomorrow morning at 9 a.m.